So, so this is day 6 of the bootcamp, and today we just want to learn about functions, modular code, and OP. But before we do that, maybe we can remind ourselves of what we did yesterday. That is control flow and loops. So maybe somebody can give me a quick summary of what we did, what we said about control flow, the different types of control flows that we looked at, and loops. It doesn't have to be one person. Just unmute really quick and take maybe 30 seconds to give us a summary of what we did yesterday, or what was your key takeaway yesterday from yesterday's class. And then we can start this one. At the end of this, you're supposed to do your first Capstone project that you're also going to push to GitHub. So we're going to really learn a lot today. All right. Faith, what was your key takeaway yesterday?
We looked at the nested if and the loops, for loops and while loops. Yeah.
Well, I already know that. What was your key takeaway? What did you learn? I mean, how do you apply control flow in real life? That's what I want. Maybe give me an example of how you can apply the knowledge of control flow and loops in real life.
For example, using while loop, maybe in a case like maybe entering data in using Python, while maybe a certain condition is met, the command flows until you break it.
Okay, somebody else, Amisi, what was your key takeaway? How do you apply the knowledge of control flow and loops in real life? I just want a normal life scenario without having to bring code into this, but it can relate to whatever control flow and loops allow you to do. A scenario in real life. Amisi? Hamisi, Kennedy, Hamisi. Just unmute if you're ready.
I think loops helps us in real life when you are entering data or we are doing some math. Maybe it helps us in avoiding repetition and maybe doing one sum continuously.
Now apply that in real life. Pick a scenario.
A scenario in real life could be maybe in sales, maybe data sales. Be in a supermarket or
now we are talking, yeah. Continue.
A kiosk. When we want to maybe calculate the sales of maybe sugar, that is 1 kg sugars. Instead of doing the math of repeated 1 kgs, we can loop the entire sum. Yes.
All right. There are a lot of applications of control flow and loops in real life. I don't know. Does it even stop? Because almost everything that we do each day, if you look at what happens even when you buy data from your M-Pesa, or when you initiate a bank transaction, everywhere there are loops and control flow. These common systems that you interact with, if you just pick a single scenario, for example, let's say you're even applying for maybe a driving license, it expires, right, after some time, and then now you have to renew. It expires again after some time, and then you have to renew. What do you think that is? It's some kind of loop, but you do realize that it takes like maybe 1 year or 3 years for your driving license to expire so that you renew. If there was a leak or a loophole in the loop, then something like maybe in the next, you just apply now, and maybe in the next 3 months or maybe in the next 1 week, you find that it's already expired. But because there is some form of looping and control in between, so we have a loop and we have control. That is, I'm talking about if statements, I'm talking about the break, continue, pass, and all that. They are at play so that we make sure that once a given period has been supplied, then the loop will execute. And when that particular period has expired, that is when it will initiate the right action. Kennedy, give me one live scenario or application of control flow and loops, according to what you understood yesterday. There's so many, so many.
A live scenario.
Sikia wewe unakaa Mera, sitaki matusi, nataka tuanze class. Hadi unafikiria na vile ziko mingi. We, itakuwa mgeni wa nani leo? You don't even have to think. Ziko mingi. Anything you pick will apply. Anything. Kennedy.
The sales data is what's coming into my mind.
No.
The grading system.
Well, yes. But that is an exercise that I gave you guys. Sawa. Umeshindwa. Wacha tuendelee. Kwani tutashinda tukikubembeleza na hizi vitu ni mingi. You go to banks, you go to supermarkets, you go to any system that you want to review, there must be a scenario where loops are being applied. Even when you want to order food.
Okay, I've thought of one. The M-Pesa limit. The amount of transaction you can transact in a day. It is capped at some maximum.
So the fact that you're already thinking of a scenario is good, and you are pointed in the right direction. So let's just go through what you're supposed to do today. But I just wanted you to, whatever you're learning here is, I mean, you're not in high school, you're not in university where you just want something, but you want to learn something for the sake of passing exams. You're not passing any exams here. Whatever you're doing here, you're going to apply it in real life, and you want to build life-changing solutions. And of course, if things go well, earn some money. Or maybe get a job or get an internship. So we don't want to think like students or think like we are going to do some exam. Or when I give you an exercise, don't think like a student. Think like in real life. What could this solve? And then start doing it. Do for me a standard code, not a student inclined code or I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Pick a real life scenario. Solve that problem using the simple exercises that I'm giving you. Expand your knowledge and do something creative. I'm not marking the exercises, so they are meant to make you grow.
20.
All right, so today we are tackling functions. And there's something called modular code. I'm going to explain, and OOP. Now, modular code and OOP, or modular programming and OOP, are one and the same. Or let me say they're almost one and the same. Now, let me try to explain this. Let's start with functions. So when you talk about functions, let's say, for example, when you walk into a bank, normally you take a ticket, right? Right at the door, you pick a ticket. And then there's a system that is going to maybe traverse all the existing tickets that have been applied in the system, and then now assign you the right counters based on how the traffic is moving in that particular bank or maybe customer service desk. Normally you see them in banks, even when you're going to pay fees or maybe when you're going to withdraw money from the bank or something like that. You find that there is also a section where somebody, a section of the system where somebody, maybe if you're dealing with an accountant or we're dealing with a cashier or with whatever, but whoever he is at the desk giving you services, there's somewhere they log in, they're able to pull your details. They're able to maybe help you with whatever you want, or maybe it is withdrawing money and all that. Now, let's think of this as segmented a house. Let's talk about a house. Now, within this house, there are rooms. And within these rooms, there are sections that are meant to hold specific things. So let's picture the house as a module. So in the neighborhood, there are different houses. And you may find that in each house, whatever goes on in each house may be different. But at the end of the day, you are in one neighborhood, and somehow whatever house 1 does and 2 and 3 might affect how people perceive the neighborhood. So let's just pick a single unit within that particular neighborhood. So that is a house. So let's look at that house as a module. Now, within that module, we have functions, or we have classes. Now, if you have classes, or let me say objects, when you talk about a class, I'm talking about an object. And even in real life or normal English, if I just say a class, you are in which social class, or you're in which whatever, it refers to a group of items that are similar somehow, or they at least somehow they have similar traits or properties. So when we talk about object-oriented programming, the OOP, we are talking about classes. Another name for a class is an object. So you find that if I'm talking about an object, normally an object may have features or behaviors. So let's go back to our house. So we are saying that a room can be referred to as a function, a single unit in that particular house. Sorry?
Are you presenting? Because you're not able to see your screen.
Simuulize polepole, mkwe wa pole. Mtu anauliza ni kama washakasirika. Hey. Yeah. All right, thank you for that. I've not even, I was just here in this screen. I've not moved an inch. So I'm talking about functions. So, and we are relating it to a house. So we have a house, what we are calling a module. And within that house, we have rooms. Now, these rooms, think of them as functions. So I have a kitchen. What normally happens in the kitchen? It's a single unit in that house that is responsible for the day-to-day sustainability of that particular house. So a kitchen, what happens in that kitchen? It is a single unit that does something specific, or it is set aside for something specific. And then we have the dining room, and then we have the bedroom, and then we have the bathroom. Those are different rooms, but they have their specific tasks that they, at the end of the day, if you are to be comfortable in that particular house, then you find that each room gives you comfort or gives you some form of importance in their own way. If you walk into a kitchen, you find that it is arranged in a particular manner to allow you to cook your meals. You go to your bathroom, you realize that the setup is there is for you to go and clean up. You go to your bedroom, now it's time to rest. You go to your dining room, it's time to take your meals. Now, if you combine all that, you find that that single unit now becomes a full house that is able to sustain itself. So when you're talking about a module, let's go back to now the banking system that we're talking about. We have the ticketing system that queues tickets. That is a function on its own, right? Or let's call it a module. And that module has functions to apply for a ticket. So we have module called ticketing module. Within that module, we have functions to apply ticket, queue ticket, maybe ticket cancel, you can cancel ticket, functions like that. And then we have the authentication module or user management module, where now this one allows users, you can register, create an account, you can log in, you can maintain user account information so that when they come and you want to give some services to them, you just pull their account details, maybe use their ID or username or email. And you pull their details and you're able to verify. And there is a function, there is another module called accounts module, which now, or finance module, which actually deals with managing your accounts, your bank accounts, and your money and all that. So if I have verified your user information using the user module or through the user module, I can go ahead and link it back to the finance module, where now from your verified details, I can pull your balance and maybe process your withdrawal. And with the right authorization, I can be able to process your money and give it to you. So think of it that way, maybe a banking environment or a supermarket or an online shopping platform like Jumia. You have to create account, log in. There's a module for ordering. There's a module for tracking. Like within that ordering, there's a particular sub-module for maybe where you track your order and all that. And you can realize that whenever you are going through a particular website or a particular portal, maybe a school portal or whatever, or maybe e-citizen, you realize that if you are on a particular section, or let's call that section maybe your user profile, whatever you're getting in that section is related to the specific profile section. And you go to where now you want to apply for something, you realize that somehow things are arranged in a particular way that they relate to each other step by step as you move to the other modules. So together, all these modules fit together and forms a system that is able to give services to the users. So that's why I'm saying what we're doing today is very important, because once you understand it and you combine with your previous knowledge, you can actually build solutions that can impact people's lives. And whenever I give you a project right from today, don't do it as a student. Don't do it because as if I'm going to mark and maybe, interrogate you. No, do it with the mindset of solving a real life problem. Maybe something you've experienced before, maybe something that you are seeing happening. Now, if you get stuck, that is when now I'll come in. You have a good idea. You're trying to implement it with what you've learned so far, but somehow you are getting stuck somewhere. That is good, because I'll help you get back up. And that's the only reason why I'm here. And that's why we are carrying out this bootcamp, to try to single out those people who are interested in tech and can really do great things with code. But they needed a guided step-by-step learning, somebody to introduce them to code and all that. And at least somebody to mentor them if they decide to go deeper into the field of tech and software engineering. Now, with all that gibberish I've been talking about, what is a function according to you now? According to what you picked from hiyo kelele yote nimepiga. What is a function? What is a module? And what is an object or a class? And maybe you can give me examples in real life. Twende guys. Sasa msiniangushe, nimeongea mpaka nasikia kama maji imeisha, ndio muelewe. Maji imeisha kwa mwili na mtaka kuniambia mjaelewa.
Let me give it a try. Now, in real life situation, for example, if I use a scenario of a supermarket, the supermarket is going to be our module. And the functions are the services which are supporting for it to be called a supermarket. For example, we'll find there is a cashier. There are people who are working in the kitchen section, the cooks. There are people who are helping in the shelves. And now the object would mean the items which are being sold in the supermarket. Yeah.
Well, yes, that sums it all. So we have functions, we have modules, and we have objects. All right. So let's dive right into it, and maybe after this, your definition would be much precise. So when you talk about a function is like a mini machine that performs a specific task. Just like what I was trying to explain. When we have an example of a blender here, if you're on a blender, you know, one thing comes to your mind, right? You can be able to create smoothies. I'm a blend. You know, I was browsing. Let me just say, I was surfing the net the other day, and I saw a meme, where we men, because we don't like to cook. So if somebody invented for us blender, we think it is for blending everything. So probably a man will be tempted to even blend maragwe, akunywe. Badala ya sijui unachukua maragwe sijui na karanga. See, I just put it in a blender, I blend it surely. Alafu nikunywe, maneno yaishe. Hapo hakuna hata kuosha sahani, na kunywa tu hapo hapo. Hiyo story ishe. Ati mara naosha sufuria nini? Hapana. Si blender iko. Kama mjawahi fanya vitu kama hizo, mimi ndo niko na dunia ingine. Mjawahi fanya vitu kama hivi? Haujawahi blend maragwe? Kenya is not for beginners. Haya, tuendelee. So we have a blender, and when you see it, something comes to your mind. What does it do? Probably a juice will be produced at the end of the day. So, or when you see a calculator, probably we're going to do some arithmetic. You see a washing machine, what goes into your mind? Some clothes will be clean. So that is the function, a single or a small unit of a particular system that performs a specific task. Just like when I was talking about banking systems, you have, within that system, you have a ticketing module. We have finance module. We have user management module. And they have specific functions to complete that module. All right. How do you define a function in Python? So let's go through that. The only way you're going to define a function is by using the keyword def. Now the keyword def is defined, it is reserved in Python in the Python compiler for defining a function. So if you use the keyword def, probably you are defining a function. Let's have a simple function here for greeting people. So this greet, and what I want you to put at the back of your mind is when you are calling a function, you have to call it with brackets. Sawa. That's why I was telling Faith exit, and exit is a function. If I say exit is a function, that means it ends in brackets. When you're calling a class or what we are calling an object, most of the time it's going to end in brackets. So when you're talking about functions, we have different types of functions. We have functions that return values to another function or to a variable. So when Faith was presenting her code, we saw that to get grade, she was calling the get grade function and passing maybe a mark for a particular subject. So let's say when she passed 70, and that goes, and some if statements are checked, but that function was returning grade as string to the variable grade. So alisema something like grade equals to get grade and then passed 70. So that means the get grade function was a return function. It does not process the results of its whatever it computes within itself. No, it does what? It returns it to a variable or another function. So how do you call a function? When you call a function, you don't now, when you're defining a function, you use the keyword def. When you're calling a function, use the function name and with the end brackets. So here you've defined it. So what is the function name? This keyword will always remain, but the function name is great. So this part, when you're calling a function, pick the function name. When you call the function name, whatever code block is within that function will be executed. And if it is a return function, then you have to return that particular value to either another function or to another variable so that you can use in the next code sections. Now we have what we call parameters. So let's look at return functions or parameters. Now parameters, think of it this way. When you are young, Hamisi, when you're young, your mom used to send you to your neighbor. Akwambia, Hamisi, mambo namna gani? Sasa wewe uko hapa hakuna chumvi. Sasa unataka tukule mboga bila chumvi. Kimbia hapo kwa jirani, kwa kina Nyango, umwambie mama yake akupe chumvi kidogo, tukinunua chumvi tutafanya nini? Ama ile ya unga, Kennedy. Wewe hukutumwa unga. Ati mnapika ugali tu hivi, alafu ugali ikaanza kuwa inakaa kama some magma that did not melt completely. Ugali imekuwa na kokoto. Sasa unatumwa mbio, chukua hii sahani, kipia kwa kina Tieno. Ambia mama yake akupatie unga kidogo. Tukisiaga kesho tutakuparodisia. So think of you being sent as the parameter. What the parameter does is it will go and collect a value and feed it back to a function. So when we talk about functions with parameters, that is, picture that at the back of your mind. You going to your neighbor and collecting something and bring it back to your mom or back to your home is like how parameters work. So let's look at this one. And it doesn't mean that a function is limited to one parameter. No, you can define, let's say I wanted to add two numbers and I wanted X to hold the first number, Y to hold the second number. You can separate these parameters using commas. So, and the same parameters, if you don't, most of the time you call them parameters, but also at times you'll find people calling them arguments to a function. So we have a greet here as a function now. And this greet has a parameter name. So what happens, this is like a placeholder for the name the value of that will be passed to this name. Just like I said, unaenda kucollect kitu kwa jirani alafu unarudisha kwa whoever sent you. So whoever is sending you here, let's say wewe ndo huyu hapa, ukitumwa kwa jirani, penye hii value itakuwa set ama passed to this function, it will pick it and pass it back to this function here so that it can be printed. So that's why tukikuja tuite hii function, we are going to call the function greet but pass the value amina. So when we pass the value Amina, it is passed to this name variable or placeholder or parameter or argument as string. And the outputs will be something like hello Amina. Tunaelewana jameni? Tuko pamoja? Naona tu Hamisi peke yake, Brian. Sasa Brian, umekuwa wapi jana? All right.
Nilipoteza link kidogo.
Link na link huwa anatuma kwa status na group.
Siko kwa hiyo WhatsApp group.
Come on bwana. Let me just add you immediately.
Wacha ni paste namba yangu.
Hapana. Wacha ni kuadd kwa hiyo group. Oh, I'm just sending you a link right now.
Siwezi access link, sina nini. Sina simu bana.
Okay, now do this. Yeah, text my number. And then I'll add you on WhatsApp. That's easier, right? Or situmi namba yako hapa sitatumia. Text me on WhatsApp if kama uko na haja na equals. Then I'll add you to that group. All right. Kama tumeelewana, let me move to the next. Now we have return values getting output. So I want to add two numbers. So I have a function called add. And I have two parameters, A and B. So remember I told you can separate the parameters using commas. Now A is a placeholder for the value that you'll pass to A, and B is a placeholder for the value that you'll pass to B. So if I say return, now this is a return function. It does not process or print the output within itself. It returns it to another function or another variable. So it's going to add A and B. But this A and B must be collected first. And they must be collected somewhere. And where are they being collected? Where we are passing the values now. So if I pass 5, it's like if I call the add function and A was a placeholder and 5 is now taking the place of A, that means 5 will be assigned to A and 3 will be assigned to B. And in that case, once that has been done, it returns back to this function, adds them, and return the sum to the result, and we can print it. Tumeelewa return functions? My good people, tumeelewa return functions? Wait until I give you an exercise, Dr. Jua. Now we have default arguments. So you can assign in these parameters. Let's say, for example, you don't want errors. You don't know whether a user is going to pass a value or not. You know, sometimes, depending on how you design a system, you might want whether a user does something or not. At least you are going to go with defaults. Or if you ever installed maybe an app on your phone, sometimes it tells you, it gives you options or it gives you defaults. Do you want to go with the default or do you want to go with custom? So if you go with defaults, there are specific values that are there such that even if you don't do anything, at least there's something to start with. So that is why we're talking about default arguments. So that if user does not, remember, if user does not assign a value to this placeholder name, and you're trying to print it within this function, it's probably going to give you an error. And if you don't want an error, then if user does not give anything, then you can give them a default output. So maybe when they see the default output, they will be like, oh, I was supposed to add a value here. This default, I don't want this default. Now, something like that, a fail safe, a plan B. So in this case, I've initialized name to friend. So if I pass a value to that function greeting, it will override the default value. It's like having default settings, but you decide, okay, I'm going to provide my own settings. I'm not going default. So whichever custom settings that you apply will override the default settings. So if I call greet here, it will print this one will print Amina for now, because you can see here we are printing hello and then name. So this one is going to print hello Amina. But if I call it, but I don't pass a value to name, it will go with the default value that was assigned. So that's why you can see hello friend. All right, now let's talk about inbuilt functions in Python. So we have a default library in Python called math. If you import math, you can do all the scientific calculations that are there in your scientific calculator. And you can actually write a program that can create an advanced custom calculator. So if you're interested, after exploring the math library in Python, you could even improve on your calculator project that you did the other day and make it advanced. It's all about, can I do something better or unique using the skills that I've learned? So there's square root, there's exponential, there's all those functions that you find in a scientific calculator. They are all from the math library in Python. So you can take your time and explore the math library. It has quite a number. And when we're looking at functions, we'll be looking at some default functions in Python that you can use to make your work easier. Now let's look at creating reusable code. Now, if you're going to be a good software engineer, you want to create something once and never create it again. And I always say in programming, apply the dry rule. And what does dry mean? What does dry mean when it comes to software engineering or programming? Each letter means something. Google. What does dry mean? Now, let me give you a scenario. Alafu utaniambia if you understand what dry means. If you have, let's say you're now an experienced software engineer and you've built an e-commerce system. What is one thing that all systems that you've interacted with have? Be it your e-learning platform, be it your student portal. There is one thing they share in common. There's one thing most websites, most systems share, even your laptop.
Password.
You are headed the right way, but now I'm talking about, we're talking about modular. So it's actually a functionality that all of these systems, be it your laptop, be it your student portal, be it whichever website that you've ever interacted with, where you created and hit mistake, you are headed in the right way. But that password is being handled by something that is in most of these systems. It is a part of something.
Username.
Now, username and password, they are all a part of something.
ID. Identity.
Sorry? Identity. You're getting closer. Identity is part of that thing I'm talking about.
User ID.
User ID, the identity.
Account.
Account. Hey. You are the goat of all times. Account. If you go to your student portal, you have authentication management. That is what we are calling your account management or authentication. You have to create an account, or somebody has to create an account for you, right? And then you have to log in using your username or your email or your ID or whatever and password, right? Now that goes through what we call an authentication management system or user management system. But if I can be specific, authentication management system is a module on its own that manages authentication. Its work is to check if you are authorized to access that particular website, portal, or resource. Now, if you go to, let's say you are an experienced software engineer and you built an online shop like Jumia. And then you've also built an HRM management system. You've also built a CRM management system. You've also built a ticketing management system. You've also built inventory management system. At the end of the day, all these systems are going to require what? Authentication, si ndio? Lazima kukuwe na authentication module, si ndio? Ama nadanganya? Si lazima mtu wa login ndo aweze kuaccess your inventory. Ama unafungua tu mlango fua, kila mtu aingie. It doesn't work like that. You have to go through a door, and that door in each system is what we are calling authentication. And there's a module called auth management or authentication management. So ukitoka hapa and somebody knocks on your door, tell them authenticate yourself. Usikuja kuambia ati yo ni nani. Hebu drop hiyo, you're now a software engineer. Tell them authenticate yourself. Kisungu kubwa kubwa mpaka watashangaa huyu jamaa alienda kusoma wapi hizi the past 1 week. So when you authenticate, somebody has to authorize, or there has to be a logic to authorize. And to authorize means it's like now opening the door for you to access whatever you can access. You can't access everything, of course. You're going to access things that are tied to your role. So that is what that also comes with role management and permission management and all that. So all these systems are going to have this. Now, when you talk about dry, can somebody now try to guess what I mean by dry? Each letter means something. Sasa mumeanza kuchoma. Na mimi nimeanza kusikia ni kama niko na usingizi tu mnachoma. Hamwezi jaribu. What does D mean? Sema tu hata anything that comes to your mind. What does D mean and what does Y mean?
Dependent.
What about Y? Hapo ndo umepotea kabisa sasa. You can't even okay. So all right. So what I was trying to bring to your attention is if all these systems are sharing one module that is called, I mean, they must have one module that is called authentication management or auth management. Don't you think you can build it once and put it in a central place where all these services can share it or share its functionalities? Have you ever heard of SSO, single sign-on? Nani amewahi login kwa eCitizen? Nipe thumbs up hapa. Mbio. Brian, na ujui, na bado nikisema dry bado hamjui. Do you know that when you log into eCitizen, you can be able to access BRS, business bureau, whatever, registry services, business registry services, NTSA, you're able to access, what are you able to access also? You also access immigration, Nini. Do you even log into those systems? You're even able to access KRA. Once you log in via eCitizen, do you normally log in again? Na mtu aniambie, umewahi log in tena? You're able to access NTSA, you're able to access what? You're able to access wildlife KWS systems, you're able to access business registration services, immigration, which is what? Passport, nini, blah, blah, blah. You don't log in again. Do you know what we call that? You log in from one central point, and because all these services share the same authentication logic or functionality, then you don't need to log in again. So it's like once you log in from one point, and these services are all being offered under the government systems umbrella, why then log in each system separately? Let's bring all the government systems under one umbrella so that you log in once and you don't have to log in again in any other service portal that you're going to access, so long as you're accessing a government system. Quite brilliant, right? But guess what? You can do the same. So when I talk about dry, it means do not. It's pretty obvious.
Do not repeat yourself.
Let me give you your flowers. Yes. Do not repeat yourself. And that is why we are talking about modular programming. Do not repeat yourself. Create it once. Create a function once. And then reuse it across multiple functions. Create a file that is going to hold your logic for the basic functions that you're using in all other functions or modules. Then reuse it across. Hey, nimeongea sana leo, and I want to end this class here. Tomorrow we will be doing now the practical part of this. We'll write some code, we'll write some functions, and go deeper into OOP. But for the first time, let's see, I'm going to share this with you. So there's a simple exercise here explaining modular programming. Now you can do this separately, but I want you to come up with a project on your own that you're going to present tomorrow that is able to do something crazy, that is combining all the knowledge that you've learned so far, from variables to modular programming to OOP. So I'm going to share this. Then tomorrow, once you present your projects, so you use this as an example or a starter project to just give you a direction of how modular programming works. Then create something. Just pick a project your age, or pick a project your size, and hack it. I'll be here tomorrow to help you. Remember Faith akitaka nikimwambia present hapa akasema, oh, it's not quite ready. But how long did it take us to just fix her code? Less than 1 minute, right? So when you share, we learn together. And when I correct you there, it is easier because you learn more and you see where you are making mistakes. So I'm going to share this. I'm going to share notes for the previous sessions in that WhatsApp group. So if you're not there, Brian. Oh, just text me so that I can add you before I share this. Because once I share, before I add you, utapata. So Brian.
Nishatext.
Good. So, all right. So let me just so for today,